Alright, I am re-recording this again because my last re-recording, I yapped way too much, like good lord. Also, I was crashing out near the end due to the background noise of the fucking people doing the lawn mowing and shit. And while I am a little bit testy at the moment, as long as there's no lawnmowers, it should be fine. But yeah, no, we're going straight to the point because I need to get this video out as soon as possible, and if you want any extra additional commentary of why I do the shit, if you hear this sound effect, that would mean that I have some additional shit to say, so you may need to pause and read if you actually care. This video is directed for those that, are curious about the process of working on the Mage of Silence, but also people who want to make their own animated series, but feel pretty darn intimidated. So yeah, the two options are basically my target audience for this video. Anyways, without further ado, let's begin. Here is the process of how an episode of The Mage of Silence is made. First things first, storyboarding. Yes, I start with that first, we'll get to that later. But yes, I do storyboardings and I do that on the mobile app, Ibis Paint. I started out doing like the very, very rough sketches, and then after that, I just make the cleaner sketches for me to do the line art later, which we will get to later. And with the exception of the first episode and the minisode, the storyboards for an episode of The Mage of Silence is around in 4 parts. So we might get to the next part. This one is easily skippable if you don't feel like doing this shit. And that is if you want to do things similarly to how I am doing. Anyways, I do the thing of exporting the storyboard files into Photoshop files from Ibis Paint, send them over to my private Discord, and then download it from the said private Discord. After that, I kind of save the Photoshop files as .mdp files, the File Packer files, so then I could just make all the frames visible while I have animation mode on in File Packer. And after that, I just click on File, and then export layers, animation mode, so then I could save all the storyboards as separate PNGs. And lastly, from this bullshit, I transfer the PNGs back into my Galaxy tablet so then I can import them into Rough Animator, also separated into 4 parts. Anyways, once this bullshit is set up, this is where I do the scripting. And also have to keep the storyboard saved on the computer just in case. So yeah, I do the scripting on Notepad and then transfer them into Google Docs. I just feel more comfortable writing the script on the computer and then putting them to Google Docs so then I could just do the grammar check and shit. But yeah, after that, once I got the script done, I set up a table for each character for their lines, storyboard frames that are set to the lines, sometimes, and setting up the voice direction of how I want the character to say said line. And now we get to the fun part, mostly, the line boiling. So, as some of you may gather, part of TMOS's animation style is the line boiling. And given that Rough Animator is mainly a raster software, you could bet that I do this shit frame by frame. Now this is where you can deviate from what I 100% do because the way I want to do frame by frame while also keeping the Puyo Puyo inspiration of having the line art for the hair be a different color compared to the rest of the character line art. You can just look up on screen of what you can do if you don't really want to do exactly what I usually do. At least for the Mage of Silence. The reason why I do the things the way I do is because I am what you call very fucking particular. Anyways, once the line boiling is done, we get to the 5th step, which is the other bullshit that may or may not be skipped. Once I got all the frames done, I transfer the Rough Animator files from my Galaxy tablet to my computer. And that is because I also have Rough Animator on my computer. And once all of that is settled, I transfer all the frames into PNG sequence for all 4 folders. And that's it, that's all of that part. Now we get to the very hit film specific parts, although I think this could be pulled off in Gaiden Live too, but we'll see. So for each part of the episode, I open up hit film to set up a project file for said part. And then I already kind of set up folders just to make sure everything is organized mostly. And then for each shot that I want to prepare, I set up a singular shot in the timeline and then make that a composite shot that's 24 frames long. And after that, I insert the 2 needed frames for the line boiling shorten them into 3 seconds, or 3 frames, and then move one of them slightly, duplicate them, and now they're 4 frames, and duplicate that, and now we have a full composite shot! And I do this for every single shot of the episode. With some mistakes, but that's besides the point. And once that's done for all of the project files, I'll be prepared to, get everything together. But first, a bit of a detour. So in terms of the backgrounds, I do this shit in Alpaca, where there's, actually drawing them out, setting up patterns or effects, or just straight up just using a gradient, just because I felt like being lazy that time. And on the topic of effects, I flip-flop between using For Alpaca and Rough Animator for the animated effects that I kind of made from the ground up. But I know that when it comes to the blurring, For Alpaca is kind of the way to go when it comes to both the Gaussian blur and the motion blur. And as for the auditory side of things, I use LMMS for making music for the series. I also use it sometimes when I want to make some sound effects as well. And on the subject of the latter, I also use VFXer.net and recently AnimeVox for making some unique sound effects. But otherwise, I use other types of sound effects with YouTube and free sounds. Either that or using the good old sound effects packs from either Anime or Edit. Now we get to the second to last part. Editing for each part. This would depend on the fact that my VAs would already get their lines in, which thankfully they have been really good about. But yeah, firstly I insert each still frame and the needed lines in order to get the shit in order, as well as the needed backgrounds. And then after that, I turn each still frame into a composite shot, so then I can insert the composite shot that has been already prepared into said designated a composite shot. And after that, I insert the needed animated effects, as well as the sound effects for said each part. And then boom, a part of an episode of The Mage Silence is done! And finally, we get to the final editing stage. Yippee! Once all the parts of an episode of The Mage Silence is exported, as well as the credits, I set up the main project file that has, all the parts, as well as the opening sequence. Once everything is in order, I insert the music and plus some extra sound effects, and some text for the title card of the episode. I also made some post-production stuff, edits, like keyframing and zooming for some parts in episodes 4 and 5. And once all of that is done, I then export the episode and then it'll be ready to be uploaded to YouTube. And that's it, that's the process. Here's some text for some extra commentary that I feel like recording at this point.